students, this is lesson 1-3, day 1. So this video has two parts. For the first day, you just need to watch this video, the distance formula. You'll be able to find the distance between any 2 points by the end of this lesson. So what is the distance formula? And actually there's two different ways to kind of find distance, but first let's focus on how do you find the distance between 2 points on a number? Well, any 2 points on a number line, to find their distance, we're just going to subtract 1 point minus the other. But since distance is always a positive value, we want to make sure that we take the absolute value of our answer. So the absolute value of the difference between any two numbers. So for example, if we have this number line and we are trying to use the number line to find the distance of BE, let's see, there's B, -6, and E is 2. That just means we are going to take the absolute value of 2 minus -6, which is the absolute value of 2 plus 6. Can I switch colors quick? Of course not quick, but which is the absolute value of 8, and we know that is 8. Of course, you could have gone the other way around and you would have gotten the same answer. So on a number line, very intuitive. But what about if your 2 points are not on a number line, if they're on a coordinate grid? Well, you'll remember from algebra, we use the distance formula, which of course is related to the Pythagorean theorem, but we'll talk about that more in class. So you find the difference between the x's and you square it, and you find the difference between the y's and you square it, you add them together, and then the piece where we have to kind of be really careful is that we take the square root of that total. So that's a formula. It comes from the Pythagorean theorem. In class we'll talk more about that, but let's look now as to how we might do this here. So I like to start by labeling my x and my y coordinates. And now we're just going to go in and we are going to find the distance between the x coordinates, or the difference between the x coordinates squared. So 5 minus -4. And if I did 5 minus -4, I have to do -1 minus -6 for my y's, because you always want to start with the same point. The way the formula defines that is by saying that you always start with the second point minus the first point, which is great, and if you can do that every single time, the second point minus the first point. But you actually could do the first point minus the second point as long as you always started with the first point. So let's switch colors here while we simplify. So minus a negative, we know it turns into a positive, and being careful with the signs here makes a big difference. So we have 9 squared plus 5 squared. And again, we're going to switch colors quick. Let's go with green this time. So we have the square root of 81 plus 25. So this is the square root of 106, which we know the square root of 100 is 10, so it's going to be slightly over 10. It ends up being approximately 10.3. So if we were to graph this real quickly, -4, -2, 4, 6, and 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, -1. Does it look like the distance between that would be approximately 10? It sure does. So it's a good way to kind of check to see that, what we're doing seems reasonable. All right, so again, to be discussed in class, but start thinking about it. How is the distance formula related to the Pythagorean theorem?